2023 meeting of the Ashland Zoning Board of Appeals. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, this public meeting is available in remote form. Please be advised this meeting is being recorded and will also ultimately be viewable on WACA. WACA is not recording us this evening, however. Pursuant to the agenda that was published on the town website, links to the Zoom meeting via computer and also, excuse me, via telephone are listed on that agenda. First order of business is to call the meeting to order and take a roll call. I, John Trefethen, present.
I, Brian Forrestall, present.
I'm Nathan Band, present.
I, Stuart Siegel, am present.
I, Anton Komarov, am present.
I, Ryan Sullivan, am present.
And we have one more assistant member who apparently is not present at the moment, at least. Okay, next item on the agenda is our public hearing involving 17 Loring Drive. I will read the notice that was published in the Metro West Daily News. The Ashland Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing to hear the petition from Patrick and Jill McElvey requesting a variance per Chapter 48, Section 9 of the Massachusetts Zoning Act and Chapter 282, Section 4, parenthesis, dimensional requirements, close parenthesis, and 9.2, parenthesis, Board of Appeals, close parenthesis, of the Ashland bylaws to allow for the installation of an in-ground pool not meeting the setback requirements of the residential A zoning district. The property in question is located at 17 Loring Drive, assesses map 15, block A, lot 130-HH. All that being said, I see that Patrick McElvey is here, and I assume he is going to make the presentation in as much as he is one of the applicants. Welcome, Mr. McElvey.
Thank you. Actually, it's McKelvey.
McKelvey, well, you know, it would be something new if I actually got someone's name pronounced correctly. So McKelvey, I apologize. We'll do better next time.
Well, that's okay.
Let me just explain a little bit about the process that we will go through tonight. We typically ask the applicant to make his or her presentation. The board will then have an opportunity to ask questions. Once those questions are asked and answered, the hearing will be open for public comment, and any members of the public who are present and wish to be heard on the matter will be heard. And then we will, the board will begin to discuss the matter and what our thoughts are on your application. As the notice indicated, it is an application for a variance. And I assume you are familiar, or at least you, before filing the application, you did read Chapter 40A, Section 10, concerning variances and what the board's authority is on that. And I would ask that during your presentation to direct some of your comments to the issues that the board is going to have to decide pursuant to Section 10, if that's okay.
Sure.
Then
okay.
I will turn the matter over to you. Well, you know, before I do that, let me just read into the record what documents the board has before it to consider tonight. We have the 2-page application to the Zoning Board of Appeals, which you filed and which was docketed with the town clerk on June 7th of this year. We also have a letter dated June 7th, 2023 from Douglas Scott, Building Commissioner, denying your request for a building permit. We also have a swimming pool application dated 5/6/2023 and also filed with the town clerk on June 7th of this year. We also have a certified plot plan dated May 1st of this year, prepared by Alfred M. Berry, professional land surveyor. And then late this afternoon, the board members received via email, 3 photographs from the, I guess, taken from the rear of your home, looking towards where the pool location is proposed to be.
Yep.
Did you submit those photos, Mr.
Yes,
McKelvey?
I did.
Okay, it was unclear. Our
Yep.
assistant town planner sent them along to us, but I wasn't sure whether they came from you or from someone else. Okay, all that being said, I will turn it over to you.
Terrific. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I really appreciate everybody coming together to meet on this issue. I'm going to first just share my screen real quick. Let's see.
Let me know if you're having issues with that. Okay, awesome.
No, I got it. So this is the assessor's map, the map that was done by the civil engineer outlining my property. Basically, let me see if I can zoom in here. We have the house. We come down a long driveway to the house. There's a wood deck on the back. This dark dashed line here represents the setback, the 30-foot setback that's required by the town zoning laws. And then the setback here and here are the 10-foot setbacks for the side yards. Basically, showing the contour lines of the backyard, you can see the backyard is relatively small with the edge of the property line back here with this solid line. It's a very small backyard, and it's also on a hill where this corner here is the high end, and it slopes all the way down this way. And I think the actual slope is something like 16 feet. It's actually a relatively steep slope in this corner of the backyard, and then it gets pretty steep here as well. So this area here, where I'm proposing for the pool to go, is actually the most level part of the backyard. And what I have is the property line is here. The back of my property line is all woods. And the owner, my neighbor in the rear that owns these woods, his house is several hundred yards through the woods. And based on the photographs that I submitted for both, I guess, for the fall, spring, and winter, where the leaves in the woods and around the trees there are the most less dense, I guess. I didn't include summer because summer is fully, in foliage, and you really can't see his house at all. But I wanted to show that even in those months in the fall, spring, and winter, you really can't see the neighbor's yard. So the view of the pool will be virtually unseen by my abutter that owns that abuts the rear of the property. His property also extends along the side here. So he's really kind of two abutters from the rear and this side. And I do have a neighbor on this side who abuts. However, there's very tall arborvitaes here, so virtually his view is completely blocked by the arborvitae's and then this raised garden. So no one will be able to really see the pool. You can see the location is also aligned with the edge of the house. So my neighbor across the street will not be able to see the pool either. It'll be completely hidden from the existing house. This is a view of my house with the red dot, and the proposed location in the back. Basically, you can see it's pretty wooded. The reason I want to put the pool in this area here where my mouse is it's really the only buildable spot on the lot. I can't put a pool in the front, nor would I ever dream of putting a pool in the front yard, but this is where my septic is. And then the side yard just isn't large enough. And I have a well right by this this rock here. So there's a well right where the tip of the point of the mouse is. So really the only location that will get sun is unfortunately goes into the setback requirements. So there is a 30-foot setback for ashland. I want to actually move the pool basically 20 feet into the setback. So I would be off the back property line by 10 feet. You can see here's the neighbor's house through the woods. They would never see the pool. I've actually spoken with them and all my neighbors. Nobody has any issues with the pool encroaching the setback. But it's really the only buildable space to put one in just because the backyard is so small. Additionally, the way the sun goes around the property, this is the east, so that the sun will rise in the east and it will make its way around the house this way and set approximately in this location. So I will be getting a lot of I would say around 1 in the afternoon to the end of the day kind of sun in this area into the pool. This photograph here shows the front of the house being completely covered in sun. So this is around noontime. Noon is about when the full front of the house gets direct sunlight. So you can even see with the shadowing of the house, really this is sort of the only buildable spot to have the pool located in the sun. I guess that's pretty much my presentation. Again, you can see there's a little bit of the pool in the buildable area, but 95% of the pool is in that setback area. But again, I've spoken with my neighbors. Everybody seems to be fine with it. I'm actually, I don't know if any are present tonight to kind of mirror that, but basically it will not be seen by anybody. The proposed equipment, I'm gonna make this a little bit larger so you can see it. The proposed equipment pad for the pool would be here on the side of the house. And again, it would all be fenced in all around the pool, coming back to the wood deck, if you will. The wood deck would engage the fence. So it would be completely enclosed. And that's really about it. The only other thing I could show you on maps here is like the street view. So you can see the house is set pretty far back. And if I were to come up the road here and and look to the side of the house, it's really, you can't see anything where the equipment would be. And again, that equipment, like the pumps and things, would be behind a fence. And if I were to come down this way to look, I start coming up the road, you would get a glimmer of it, but there would be a fence here so that really it would all be private. It's a very private backyard. A lot of woods and trees. Don't mind this dumpster. I had my kitchen remodeled last year, but basically it's very, very covered. It's set back pretty far. The only, I guess this drive here, which goes up to the two neighbors' houses in the back, they would kind of go up the hill along my adjacent property. But if I go back to the, whoops, I go back to the satellite view. Jeez, not sure how you get back to the oh, there it is, the satellite view. That driveway comes up along the sides, and again, there's full woods here, so they would never see the pool or anything like that. And as far as noise goes, I think we're pretty far away from everybody. It's a really quiet neighborhood. My children are out of college. My youngest is actually starting her senior year in college, so it's not like there's going to be, pool parties or anything like that that are out of control. But it's a quiet little neighborhood, and I would respect the neighbors and all that as far as noise goes. But it is pretty protected. And that's, I guess, my presentation. I can stop sharing in case anybody wants to build upon that or provide comments.
Before I turn it over to the board members to ask questions, can you tell me what's the address of the house that's in the rear, as you referred to it, on the other side of the woods?
Yeah, I believe it's 15 Loring Drive.
15. Okay.
Yeah. I can share again and just show you again on that share screen.
It is
Yeah,
15 Loring.
their driveway actually splits, and it shoots up the back here. This is one of their cars.
Okay.
So their driveway does split. It looks like maybe right about here or so, but it goes through the woods.
Okay.
But everybody's pretty far away.
Okay, that's all the question. That's answers my question. Okay, why don't we open it up for questions from the board? And Brian, why don't we start with you?
My only concern is, the neighbor behind and aside of you has 4 acres. If they were to try and subdivide their property, all of a sudden your 30-foot setback is 10 feet. That's my only concern in cases like this.
Yeah, so he moved into the neighborhood maybe 10 years ago or so.
2007, yeah.
Yeah, and we actually asked him that because we knew that his lot could be subdivided, and he said the reason he bought that property was because it had so much land and he had no intention to subdivide. He wanted to stay up there, kind of alone. I guess the problem would be that makes your point valid would be, what if he moved and somebody else moved in,
Bingo.
right?
Yeah.
So I understand the concern. Right now, it's not a concern. But again, I know we would be right at the property line. Basically, the woods are not even really on my property, so I can't even touch them. They're all on his property. So if the pool does get approved, the woods would still be intact 100% until he decided to move, or if his plans changed or whatever.
That's my only concern. I mean, it's a decent plan. Looks like it is probably the best spot on your property to put it. But that's my only concern, is if someone does come in and divides that 4 acres into something else, we lose that setback thing.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Anything else, Brian?
Nope, that'll do it.
Nathan, any questions? And you're on mute. There you go.
So I just want to drill down on the findings that we're required to make under Chapter 10 a little bit, just so that as the board, we have our information straight on this. So it's basically 2 parts, as I understand. There's a requirement that there be some kind of, let me read it directly off so that I get the language right here. Soil conditions, shape, or topography of the land such that a literal enforcement of the zoning is going to cause hardship. So there's 2 parts to that, right? There's the topographical piece and then the actual hardship. So my understanding from your presentation is that the topographical feature that causes you to do this is the slope there, essentially.
It's really the flattest part of the backyard. It slopes, I believe, about 2 or 3 feet. So the plan was to actually build a retaining wall to really level out the property so that the pool could be flat. But it's basically, you know, I guess the material you cut would create the fill. So I wouldn't be bringing in any soil that I'm aware of at this particular point in time.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to make sure that as the board, we have the information we need when we go to make our findings. And then the hardship essentially would be that if we deny this, the pool has to either be located elsewhere or there isn't a pool, right?
Yeah, just I guess to let you know, there would be no pool. Because the only other spot that the pool contractor suggested puts the pool on the far right-hand side of the property, which means digging into the very steep hill. It gets the entire pool within the setbacks, but it's also completely 100% in the shade. So it's not a good location.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Did you want to read the B part, or is the hardship the B part? You're on mute.
Sorry, the hardship was the part B. So it was the soil topography was part A,
Yep.
and hardship was part B.
Gotcha.
Anything else, Nathan?
I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Okay. Stu, how about you?
Did you have any conversations with the building inspector about this?
Just when I initially went to talk to him about getting a permit, I gave him a package. It was, I guess, a Thursday night, maybe about a month ago, when, you know, the town hall is open late, and he took my information, said, yeah, you know, it's gonna take some time to get this meeting. But, you know, he said he would review it. But yeah, he seems like a nice enough fellow. But he didn't say one way or another if it would be approved or denied. I know that because the pool goes into the setback, it gets automatically denied.
Right,
So,
did you speak to him about that, though?
no, I did not. I did not.
Okay. I also heard you say that there is another alternative, but it's not in the sun.
Yeah, the other alternative was provided by the pool contractor. You know, as an option of, we have a non-compliant pool location, which is the preferred location, and then a compliant location, which I am not willing to even investigate because it's in the shade, you know. It's a really poor location on the site, even though it would fit.
What type of pool is this going to be? Is this above ground or in ground?
In ground.
In ground, I see.
Yeah, yeah.
And why is sun so important?
Well, you want the sun to heat the water as much as possible to keep your costs down. But you don't want to sort of like, would you go to the beach on a cloudy day, I guess? I don't really have an answer to that. I think it's just personal preference. My wife and I would prefer that the pool be in the sun. And
Well-
then,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and then, obviously, with the fencing and things like that, we would, support local businesses. There's reliable fence on, I think it's 135, and then there's Weston Nurseries up the street to do landscaping and things like that. So, we'd support all the local businesses and things like that, trying to get it approved, if that meant anything or not.
Playing the devil's advocate based on what you're telling me is that if you chose the unacceptable to you location, that would be the pool.
Correct.
And you could put your lounge chairs out in that, right up to the setback, and there wouldn't be any problem with that because it wouldn't be considered a structural pool that violates the setback.
Yeah.
So there is kind of a mitigating solution to this if we want to consider that.
Yeah, no, my wife and I have already had lengthy discussions about it, including with the pool contractor, and we do not want it in the shade simply because we don't really own those trees, and they're just going to drop all kinds of debris. They're pine trees into the pool, and it's just a bad location, even though it could fit. There's a lot of maintenance issues with that, whereas if it were more in the sun, it's a little more protected from, let's say, branches or leaves or pine cones even to drop.
So the last question is, when you went to the planning office and did you speak to the representative at the planning office about this?
I spoke to Alvaro about it, like what do I need to submit and things like that. And I gave him all the requirements that were outlined in the zoning, or not the bylaws, the Board of Appeals. So I gave him all the packages and all the information that he needed or that was required.
But the issues of the setback, were they discussed?
No.
No.
Not really. I mean, I guess I said, I want to encroach on I don't know, Alvaro. I mean, that was 6 weeks ago. I might have said, the reason I need to come to ZBA is I'm encroaching on the rear setback.
And the response from Alvaro was what?
I just, I need to submit the application and all the necessary paperwork for review. It wasn't like he said you denied or anything like that.
Well, that's concerning to me. But so far, I have no further questions.
Thanks, Stu. Anton?
Yeah, Nathan pretty much hit what I was gonna say. I think that you spoke to everyone you really needed to speak to, but other than that, I don't have any further.
Okay. Ryan, questions?
Likewise, my questions have been asked and answered already, so nothing further from me. Thank you.
Mr. McKelvey, and did I pronounce that correctly? I haven't forgotten because
Yes, you did.
things sometimes don't last with me. Going back over your presentation and the rear portion of your yard, as I understand what you were saying, that the rear portion slopes from the right side down to the left, and the total slope is about 16 feet, did you say?
Yes.
Okay.
However, However, sort of in the backyard there, it kind of levels out to maybe it drops about 3 to 4 feet in that area. So it's the least sloping and would require the least amount of retaining wall.
And presumably would require less construction work at a lower cost than if you were to put it in the upper right-hand corner, setting aside the desirability of sun or no sun.
Correct.
And as we talked about, this is going to be an in-ground pool. So it's not going to be up above where you would see it from a distance, from like a
No.
neighbor's yard or something like that.
Right.
Okay, and just check.
I think, you
You know,
know,
and-
just being like devil's advocate, I kind of see two real issues with putting it in. One is, you know, obviously the setback, but you know, the second thing is that, you know, it's going to virtually leave the surrounding area untouched, right? The woods will be maintained, the views or the lack of views in will be maintained. And we're so far back that noise certainly wouldn't be an issue. I think the only other real issue is we're going into the setback. And then, you know, if a new person buys 15 Loring Drive and decides to develop that rear land, I think those are really the two issues. But it requires looking into the future, right? Like that land may never be sold or it may never be developed, but then again, it could, so.
I know the issue that we've dealt with in some other cases where variances have been requested because they are going to encroach upon the setback requirement. They've generally been, if I can recall correctly, additions to homes where the structure is going to be multiple feet above the ground and sort of hanging over to an extent the line. And what you're proposing with the pool would not do that. But tell me a little bit about the fencing that's proposed to go around the pool area.
Well, you're required by law to have a pool, I mean, a fence around the pool. My wife and I haven't really discussed much about the looks of it, but privacy is certainly a top issue for us. Now, with a fence, let's just say for a second, we go with a like a stockade fence that's maybe 6 feet high. I could put that fence 2 feet from my rear property line, I believe. And that meets zoning. I can put a stockade fence that you can't see right virtually up against the rear property line and side property lines. And if I did that, no one would even know there was a pool there to begin with, right? Because regardless, I guess, of whether or not those woods are ever developed. So I guess, you know, the other option that, you know, we've talked about, and, you know, I haven't really priced it out yet. But if it were, let's say, a black wrought iron fence, the plan would be to actually plant like arborvitaes or some sort of tall growing shrub within the boundary of that fence so that the deer don't come along and kill the plants. currently the reindeer do a number on a lot of the bushes in my yard. So I would, try to, create a natural screen with bushes or have a stockade fence that no one could see over. So either way, it kind of makes the location of the pool going into the rear setback kind of moot because that will be at ground level. But that's obviously your decision, how you feel about that.
You also indicated, and the plot plan references it, that on the rear left, there's a well, because there's a sign to note that there's a well cap.
Yep, that's right. So all my water is pulled from there and it goes, I don't know this for a fact, but I believe or actually I can share my screen again real quick if that's okay. I can show you where the water line I believe goes, but I have absolutely no proof of this. But usually when you're digging underground, it's usually a straight line. So in my house, my water is right in this corner of the house. So I wonder if I can draw a line with this. I don't know. I would think the water, maybe not, I don't know. I would think the water kind of goes like this. Misses the pool, comes under the deck and into the house, into this rear corner. So that was sort of another reason, why we wanted to encroach into the setback, because we didn't want to get into the water line coming into the house.
Okay, I think that's all the questions that I have.
Okay.
Any further questions from board members before we turn it over and ask for public comment?
I don't have any more questions.
I have
Okay.
one question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Stu.
Have you spoken to your, the neighbor in the back about buying an additional parcel of land to make your property more legal?
He had mentioned it in joking. He actually, believe it or not, I think has an aquifer under his house. And he has like a 10,000 gallon per minute sump pump in each of the four corners of his basement. And he was joking about pumping water down the hill to fill the pool. But yeah, I have no intention of buying additional land. I wouldn't even know how to go about doing that, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that being said, let's open the matter for public comment. I see that there are several people that are here. If anyone wishes to be heard on this matter, if you would please hit the raise hand button so that you can be identified, and Alvaro, our assistant town planner, can let you into the meeting to speak.
Okay, we do have a person, John. So,
Okay.
Mr. Marqueson, if you want to introduce yourself and give your address for the record.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mark.
Mark Sony, 49 Hawthorne Road. All my concern questions were answered, but I'm still going to bring some stuff up anyways. Where your property is in the back and has a hill slope, the pool itself will be in ground. Would it be rectangle or square?
Rectangle.
Okay.
For the most part, simply because my wife is kind of like an athlete and wants to be able to do laps. So if it were kidney shaped, it would be a little difficult.
So will it be Olympic size or a third of an Olympic size?
I think the pool is 20 feet by 30 feet, I believe, is what's shown on this plan.
Was just under a third of an Olympic size.
Yeah, I don't know. what
Yeah,
a-
it's not,
what
not
size.
exactly Olympic training center. But the fence, you'd be kind of, like you say, be kind of better off with a the stockade fence with
Yep.
with door gates.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the other thing about the fence. The fence would require gates that are lockable.
Yeah, and plus you the house and the wood deck would be a lot of your backyard is going to be taken up by the wood deck to the pool.
Mhm.
How you willing? How will the ground be broken to work on the ground itself to dig the first hole?
I would imagine the contractor, let me share my screen again, if that's okay. I would imagine that the contractor would come down my driveway. Let me zoom out of this. Well, he'd come down my driveway probably with an excavator and drive up here and, do his excavation, probably spread the dirt around to make this level. And then build a retaining wall along this line here to level this area out. So, he's got access coming down my driveway. So he won't be, I guess the message there is he will not be encroaching on any of the neighbor's property to do
I'm
work.
not, not that I'm not concerned about the neighbor's property, but I'm gonna be concerned of the construction of the hole with maybe a small backhoe or a bobcat to make the
Yeah.
hole. And then
Yeah,
you're
I don't
gonna
really-
gotta bring in a dump truck to take the dirt away.
Well, unless because the grade slopes, they're gonna use as much as that they can, as much soil that they excavate, they're gonna reuse in leveling the backyard.
You know, I kind of would suggest if it can do that, we can use some of the excess soil for maybe the detention wall to be built and make it stronger to hold the whole back
Mhm.
any sort of slopage.
Yep.
And the pool itself, and I'm looking, keep a think we're bringing this up and bringing it up. It's the Cono pad.
Concrete pad.
Yeah.
That's the backs. So when I come out of my house onto my wood deck, I can come down a set of stairs here that goes to the driveway, or I can come down a set of stairs here that comes into the backyard. So this is just the rear steps.
Okay. So where
Yeah.
will all the plumbing pipes be fitted in?
They're
Into
gonna
the-
go here.
Yep.
On the side of the house, and it's sort of hidden a little bit by this big tree and partially by a chimney. And then they're just gonna, I guess, run pipes over to the pool this way, ensuring that they don't hit the water line that comes in under the deck.
And to make sure they don't hit the water line, the deck, or any other fixtures underneath the deck that might be there.
There's nothing back there, just the water line.
Have you got Mass Safe Dick laws going for you?
Not yet. I need the approval first.
Okay. So say you did get the approval. And all that's gonna be done. And you want to in-ground, the in-ground pools, my dad used to work for a pool company himself. And it takes from maybe 3 weeks to about 2.5 months to actually get a suitable pool.
Mark, we're going a little far afield here with the application that public comment is being accepted on. So can you
Wrap it up.
bring it back in a little bit perhaps and wrap it up?
Okay. Now, because because the building inspector said no,
He was required to say no simply because I'm in the setback.
okay,
So he
Now-
didn't say no because he thought it was a bad idea. He
no,
just-
I'm not saying it's a
he's-
straight firm no, because it's not the right thing to do, or nothing like that. It's
Yeah.
just his opinion to say no for it.
Yeah.
So with the setback, which is what, 10, 30 feet?
30 feet.
That's gonna be solid too, if you're gonna have to dig back there for some more, like another side detention basin, detention wall.
No idea. When I bought the house, gosh, I don't know. When did I buy the house? 91, I guess? No,
Okay, so that's about
No.
32 years ago.
no, I've only lived here like 20 years. They replaced the septic. The septic didn't meet, what is it, chapter 10? So they had to put in a new leaching field, and there's a lot of boulders in here, so
But this,
I
but
imagine
that
there's a
has
lot of
nothing, that really, we have nothing to do with the pool where it is now for this.
Well, it is, I mean, if you were to dig, I imagine there's a lot of boulders in here that we could reuse for the
So
retaining
I'll
wall.
I'll wrap it up with this. Our pool, if it does get approved and complete and you use it, is a seasonal recreation spot.
Mhm.
And you gotta take nature as it comes, even though you don't want to have it near the trees or woods and stuff like that. But nature will do what nature does in the wind. So there's gotta be maintenance to the pool. So basically, that's what it is, and I understand that you.
Mark,
that
can you wrap it up, please? We've allowed a fair amount of time for you, but again,
Okay.
we're not talking about maintenance of the pool.
No.
We're
no,
talking
not.
about whether to grant a variance.
Okay, so variance for seasonal pool and the builders was to say no. So I'll go with the variance and the builder's opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I saw a hand from someone else up. Alvaro, is there someone else that wishes to speak?
I do not see any other hand at this moment,
I
John.
thought I saw a hand go up for Mr. I don't see
Yeah,
the name.
I thought I saw a hand as well.
Tomorrow, but maybe it was by accident. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, there is a person, Mr. Chamorro. It's asking to enter the meeting, and I believe they were in the meeting, so maybe it was them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mr. Chamorro, did you wanted to speak?
So I am one of the neighbors. I live at 10, my name is Andres Chamorro. I live at 10 Loring Drive. So sort of diagonally from Mr. McKelvey. And so most of the questions were answered that I would have. I think that speaking as someone who knows that, I've been here since 2011, and I know the yard and everything, and it really is, it seems like the spot that would require the least amount of disruption to the environment, I'll say. And in my mind, having it in that spot, yes, the sun is nice, but it also helps with energy savings and environment and all that. So I think that's yes, sun is nice, but the environment, it has a lot of environmental impact, positives to have it in that spot as well. And to speak to the point of the neighbor behind, I mean, he's got a teenage, early teens daughter who, and I believe they plan on being in this town for for a long time. And so I've heard John mention that, he doesn't intend on moving or subdividing that at all, really. So Yeah, I mean, just, basically, I think it's I think it's fine from my perspective. The McKelveys are great neighbors, and yeah, I think that that's the least disruptive spot to put a pool. And yeah, so that's basically it.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that wish to be heard? If not, we will close the public comment portion of the hearing. Okay, is there a motion to close the public comment session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
I, John Trefethan, vote in favor.
I, Brian Forrestall, vote in favor.
I, Nathan Band, vote in favor.
I, Stuart Siegel, vote in favor.
I, Anton Takamara, vote in favor.
I, Ryan Sullivan, vote in favor.
Okay, public comment is closed. Now what we usually do, Mr. McKelvey, is the board will enter into a discussion with our thoughts on the matter as we talk about what we've heard tonight and what we've considered. We typically will not make a vote on the matter necessarily tonight, but we will discuss and give our assistant town planner sort of some direction on drafting a hearing decision. Voting members on this hearing will be our three members, Brian Forrestall, Nathan Band, and myself. Our associate members, although they're not able to vote, are fully able to participate in the discussion that we are about to enter into. Okay, entering into discussion. Sometimes I'd like to go first, and sometimes I defer and let others go first. In this instance, I would like to go first, if that's all right. It strikes me that variances obviously are hard to be gotten. We have to give them out lightly if we give them out, but the facts of each case are different. I think we all recall several matters where we denied variances because they were going to be construction of a building that was going to encroach upon the setback requirement and also be more than 1 story tall, 2 stories tall, for instance. We've also, in at least one instance, granted a variance where there was going to be a setback requirement violation because the circumstances under Section 10 warranted it. Frankly, this application strikes me as one that the facts are sufficient that if we wished to, we could grant the variance and it would be upheld. There are also reasons why perhaps the variance, if it was denied, would also be upheld. I'm looking at Section 10 and the requirements about owing to circumstances relating to soil conditions, shape, or topography of such land or structures, and especially affecting the land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located. And there was a lot of discussion about the rear portion of the property, why the rear portion of the property is really the only area of the property where a pool could be located, and that the topography slopes from right to left, the fairly significant slope, and that on the left-hand side in the rear portion is a well cap for an artesian well, which would certainly limit the ability to build a pool there, and that the elevation in the far right is higher and would require more digging. It strikes me that the central part where the proposed pool is suggested would be the place to build it. And the question becomes whether, because it's no longer going to be a 30-foot setback, but you're talking about basically a 10 and 12-foot setback, whether that is going to be adequate. I understand Brian's question and comment about, if the neighbor in the back, certainly now, the wooded area in the back, I would think would be sufficient to allow a rear setback violation to be allowed. The question comes, as Brian indicates, what happens if that owner decides to subdivide his property? If he were to do so, there would at least be a 10-foot setback, presumably of woods, that would be required of any proposed subdivision. And I just think with the pool being at ground level, that it would not be as intrusive as we sometimes feel setback violations are. My thought is that we should allow the variance request with some conditions which we could talk about. But that being said, I will keep quiet and let other members speak. Brian, your thoughts?
My first thing is that putting in a pool isn't a hardship. A pool's a kind of a luxury item. You can't claim a hardship when you're putting in a luxury item, in my opinion. And I'm sorry, Mr. McKelvey, I don't mean to be a jerk, and you seem like a nice guy. When I sit here and I have people come before us, and then the next person comes in and wants to put a pool and says, well, you let McKelvey put one in, but you won't let me put one in because the circumstances might be slightly different or whatever, and the neighbor doesn't have 4 acres behind them and that sort of thing. So my biggest thing is always, if we do it for you, we got to do it for the next person. And that makes it really hard for me to say yes. And as I've stated, you don't need a pool. And I'm not saying you can't have a pool, but for us to, allow this and then open up a can of worms, so to speak, it seems in bad form. So I'm kind of against it. John makes very valid points that, yeah, it's in the ground, and if something else comes along, they don't see it. But the setbacks are put there for a reason, and pools are included in the setbacks, even though they're not a building, for reasons. And so I'm inclined to vote no on it. Unfortunately, that's my take on it.
Nathan?
I think I tend to agree. The Chapter 10 talks about not just finding a hardship, but a substantial hardship. And I have a hard time imagining a decision that this board would adopt saying that because there is an alternate location to put the pool. The applicant may not think it's ideal, but putting the pool in a suboptimal location seems to me not to be a substantial hardship, especially when you look back at some of the variances that we have granted. And as John pointed out, they are few and far between, but they tend to be, in-law apartments, situations where if it's denied, someone is not going to be able to live on that property. So I think I tend to agree with Brian, and I am leaning towards voting against granting the variance at this point.
Stu?
I tend to support Brian and Nathan's viewpoints also. There is an alternative position, and simply because it's not always in the sun, that I can't sign off on a variance for that reason.
Anton?
Yeah, I hate to say it because if this was a special permit, I would say approve, but I totally agree with Nathan Bryant's too. It's not just a hardship, it's a substantial hardship. And the hardship here is not necessarily even that you can't put in a pool, it's that you can't put in a pool in the right place, which from a kind of normal standpoint, I totally recognize why you wouldn't want to put a pool in the shade. But I don't think it will get upheld if it was challenged. I just don't think we're within the 40A boundaries.
Ryan?
I'm not sure I agree. I think, obviously one person's hardship is not the same as another's. It's substantial is the key word as well. I think that's difficult to overcome. What I think I would like a little more information on would be the cost to put it in the alternative location versus the cost here. It seems like there's a lot more earth that's going to be have to be moved. I would assume based on that it would be a substantial cost to put it in the alternative location. And I do think that there is a reason why the specifics of the property are important to consider. And I think this is a unique situation in that the privacy is not going to be impacted whatsoever by any of the adjoining properties. I do understand the concern about possible subdivision in the future, but that neighbor is not complaining here. He's aware of the ability to subdivide his property and hasn't come to object on that. Whether it will affect the marketability of a subdivided property later or not is certainly something he would have considered, and if he thought it was to oppose, he would have. So I would support this variance.
Okay, thank you. Well, as I indicated, Brian, Nathan, and I are three voting members on this. The decision has to be in favor. To grant a variance has to be unanimous. At the moment, it is at least 2 against and 1 in favor, which would be a denial of the request for a variance. Have I accurately summarized that, Nathan and Brian?
Yes.
Okay.
Anton had his hand up a moment ago too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to harken back to kind of one of the early decisions we had in early 2022, where I can't recall the applicant, but it was a request for a variance for an overhang that was about a 5-foot encroachment into a side yard, where we denied the variance, if I recall correctly, because we felt that the requested space could be better built or could be built behind the house rather than to the side of the house. And accordingly, that 5-foot setback was paramount. And it just feels that if we are denying variances of that sort, where it's really living quarters, and we feel that that doesn't really qualify, it's just so hard to say that a pool does.
Okay. Very good. Alvaro, will you draft a decision consistent with what Nathan, Brian, and I have discussed as far as voting is concerned, and what the other board members as well have sort of brought up, so that we can review it and consider it at our next meeting, which would be on July 25th, I believe.
Yes, I will take
Okay.
care of that and then send it to you promptly.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McKelvey, you've obviously heard the discussion. Our intent at this point in time, at least, is to issue a decision to deny your request for a variance for the reasons that have been discussed. We continue the hearing until our next meeting, which will be on July 25th, to review the decision and then to approve the to approve the decision. Any questions?
No, nope, no
Okay,
questions.
good luck.
All right, well, thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very well put together.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry about that.
Okay, next item on the agenda is approval of our meeting minutes from our May 9th, 2023 meeting. I had only one correction that I sent to Alvaro, and namely that was to spell Nathan's last name correctly. It is not bank, it is band, so.
Well, now I'm really embarrassed that I didn't catch that one.
Well, that's why I said it publicly, just because I wanted to say, you know, when I didn't recognize you at the farmer's market with your hat on, at least I knew how to spell your name. Okay, sorry for that little sidebar there. It goes back a few weeks. Okay, any other changes proposed by anybody, Alvaro?
Nope, I only received that one comment.
Any questions anyone has with respect to the minutes? If not, is there a vote to approve? Brian, I don't believe you were at that meeting, so I think you have to abstain from voting. I, John Trefethan, vote in favor.
Yes, I'm abstaining.
I, Nathan Dan, vote in favor.
I, Stuart Siegel, vote in favor.
I, Anton Takamura, vote in favor.
I, Ryan Sullivan, vote in favor.
And that does it. The minutes are approved. Last item on the agenda is staff updates and administrative matters. Anything to report, Alvaro?
No, no new cases, nothing in that regards.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, has everybody gotten a binder that came out a number of years ago that the planning office gave to us that included the updated bylaws, chapter 40A, and some other items where we don't meet in person anymore? It's not always so easy to know whether people have gotten those or not. If you haven't and you want one, let Alvaro know if you would. And if there's nothing else, then
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Stu.
is there any update on our new membership positions?
Yes, the select board approved Sunitha Kara to be our new associate member. She was not here tonight. I will reach out to her to see if there are any problems, but they held a hearing. The select board did, where they interviewed both Sunitha and the other candidate. They had I observed it over Zoom. It was an open and frank discussion that went on for probably 20 or 25 minutes. And then they unanimously voted to appoint Sunitha to the associate member position, which is the fourth and final associate member position. And I think that occurred back in May. And we haven't, I think it was just after our May 9th meeting, actually.
Thank you for the update.
Okay. That being said, is there a motion to
Yes.
end the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second? I, John
Second.
Trefethan, vote in favor.
I, Brian Frost, I'll vote in favor.
I, Nathan Dan, vote in favor.
I, Stuart Siegel, vote in favor.
I, Anton Takamura, vote in favor.
I, Ryan Sullivan, vote in favor.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Maybe we'll see you in August, but we shall see. Bye-bye.
John,
You have July
John.
meeting.
July, the next July meeting for
25th,
the
exactly.
decision.
Yeah, I knew that. Just checking to see if you were paying attention.
Take
Bye,
care, John.
everyone.
So long. Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good one.